Zelda 2 here, and I'm pretty sure I've recorded this about 5,100 times, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right on into it, try to get it through the basic settings as fast as possible. I will stop and highlight a couple like big ones, and then we'll talk about some other stuff as we kind of move on here. So in terms of options, again, we're going to hit video and we're going to hit gameplay, maybe Buddy Bot, but video, full screen windowed, up to you. Display resolution, most pro players like to play at 1440p at 240 Hz or 120 Hz with RTS games. So hopefully everything gets there, but me, I'm not a pro gamer anymore, never was, right? And I'm fine with it at, on my old stuff. Looks pretty good. Frame rate limit menu, don't worry about changing that one. You want to keep that and just protect your hardware when you're in the menus. Frame rate limit used to be set locked to 60, but now it's defaults to unlimited, which is great. In terms of video quality, I just recently upgraded my card, so I'm able to jump the quality quite a bit. You can, there's a big difference on low, actually, because on this particular version of the game, 0.4, and low on 0.3 and below 4 used to look kind of bad and it wasn't very visually clear. Now it actually does, and some things like, for instance, the screen percentage is now working properly, right, which is awesome. I used to crash the game and not work, so like we're there, it's good. That's actually a big change. I played on low a little bit initially with a different card, stuck it in the computer, actually looked pretty good. This is your setting to change if you're having, if you want to, I don't know, the game to look different, you want more visual clarity, you want to try to get better performance, this is the place to start. Honestly, medium should run pretty well for most people, and if not, there's a couple other things we'll talk about here. But for me, there's been a huge improvement in jump in the game, with a couple exceptions in this super late game, but that's very limited testing. It's obviously like build that's not out yet, right? In terms of vertical sync, never ever turn this on in an RTS game. You don't have to. What it does is you get more frames buffered out, which is just not good for an RTS game. You want your frames to come in one at a time, so you never really want this on unless you have to have it. If you have screen tearing and stuff like that, it will fix that usually, but yeah, desync it, don't turn it on if you don't know what it does. It's just usually not for you. Brightness, again, figure it out if you need more, if you need less. A lot of players will bump the brightness up in games and just go to like the 120 or 115. I think Zero plays StarCraft 2 like 115, so, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. I'm just going to pull it back to default though. In terms of AA stuff, FX AA usually works like almost flawlessly for almost everybody and has very little effect on the game now. It's very common, works really well. You can bump it up if you want. I don't generally find AA is important in an RTS game for me, so I don't worry about it. NVIDIA Reflex is something that if you have an NVIDIA card, and I have had one, for RTS games you generally don't want it, because what it does is it's designed to, ATI is a similar feature too. It's designed to sync your graphics card and your CPU together, which, like, especially in the case of like Stormgate, like they're trying to separate the two, right? So it's just not, it's counterintuitive, but like it actually doesn't lower your latency. It's very much a first-person shooter type thing where having those two in sync is very important. If you play Counter-Strike, like that's where that kind of stuff is, phenomenal, right? Screen percentage will automatically change if you change up here, if you go to low, right? Oops, not unlimited, sorry. From ultra to low, I believe it should automatically change, yeah. So like this used to not work, but now it does. It basically, if you're really having trouble and your computer's like, mine essentially is or was, and it's potato, like you can just turn this to up or down. The game won't look better because I haven't set it to go yet, but yeah. That is one setting if you're having trouble with frame rate stuff. Sorry, it's been like 10 hours of like putting stuff on, or doing this kind of thing. Sharpness is related to that, so you don't really need to worry about it. In general, I'm not a huge fan of like the AI stuff in terms of frames on graphics cards, but that's, you know, definitely not my area of expertise, so I'll leave that alone. Now finally we get to gameplay. Again, language, whatever. Streamer mode, like, hey, you want, you know, I don't see any reason not to use that unless, I guess, if people are being really toxic. Like, I don't see why you turn that on, even if you're a streamer. This smart attack thing. Now, I have it set to hold. It's not really for me, but this is the reason I had to go back and make the video again. I did not realize that by hold, it means if you hold the key, or hold right click, your move command will keep going through, and as soon as you release it, it turns into an attack move. Now, for the most part it's pretty good, but there's situations where I just feel out of control with it, so it's not for me, but by all means, if you want to try it out. The right and left click thing, like, you want left click free all times just to kind of move around the map, right, in my opinion, so I wouldn't put that on, but you can try hold, it's actually not bad. Status display bar, like, you either want to go always or smart. When selected is not ideal. Somebody might prefer that, but for me, like, I'm usually an always person, just for visual clarity, and I need to, like, you know, I want to look at something and know how much health it has. If I was playing the campaign, though, I would for sure be on smart. So, if you're going to play the campaign, be on smart, and the game will, you know, you don't have a bunch of health bars all over the place that you don't really need. Unless you're trying to grant games and you're trying to do some crazy challenge, in which case, yeah, he'll be on always because he does insane things, right? Again, we're kind of dying here, but it's all good. Edge scroll speed is really high in Stormgate. I pull it down. This is when you move your mouse to the edge of the screen. Yeah, this is typically how almost all pro players have moved for a long time. Day9's got an old video talking about it. And it's how you kind of move the screen for small adjustments, and then you click the mini-map. Maru is famous for, like, mini-map click, grab units, that kind of stuff, right? But you don't want it all the way to 100. It's a little bit too fast, at least for me. You want, you know, you're not trying to go fast, you're trying to go accurately, right? And that brings to screen movement smoothing. This is one of the biggest complaints early on about the game. Yeah, you can turn it off now, works great, no issues. Yeah. Sorry. We're gonna get through this. Drag scroll speed is something that Cyril uses, MaxPax uses. Like, a lot of Zergs seem to like it, so maybe it's good for like a spellcaster heavy army, because you're keeping your mouse for the most part in the middle of the screen. But a lot of players prefer to edge scroll and don't like it. The only reason I have my drag scroll speed of 40 is I use it to set my hotkeys, right, for my camera locations. It's really, really good for that, right? Obviously, lock mouse to window. Show flying unit elevation. So these are the little indicators below them. It's not, you know, for me, like, I just turn them off because for the most part you don't need to see it, because the unit in Stormgate is very much like in the air at a direct level. It'll potentially just rise, like, and this is how almost every RTS does when it goes up a cliff and stuff like that, right? So for me, it's never. Some people will do always, but I don't see too much of a reason to use it right now in Stormgate. Alright. Damage range indicators, everybody obviously wants that on. That's going to show you your big siege stuff and all that. So definitely have that on. Display team color life bars was actually required basically early on in Stormgate, so a lot of players will have it, because it didn't, like, if you didn't have that on, you couldn't see anything. Everybody is like, I don't know who's on whose side, right? Thankfully that's changed, so things look much, much better now in terms of visual clarity. Really, really good. I always like to have show requirements on. It doesn't take up any more room, but, like, if you're learning the game and you know, you're trying to build a unit and you don't have one part, you know, you don't have a biotechnics lab, right? But you do have another piece. Like, when you look and you see the biotechnics lab and you're like, oh, I don't have that, you'll link together the two things you need in your brain, right? even if for the piece you already have, because you're going to read that too. So I'm fine with it. What happens is the piece you're missing will be red, the piece you have is gray, so it doesn't really, it's not changing your visual readability of it, it's just reminding you of something, right? We're going to come back to rollback because it's important to talk about, but it's like one of the reasons I just even came over to Stormgate because it's like, why would you do rollback? But it's like, oh, you're the guy doing rollback, right? Okay, that makes sense. Control groups being unclickable. Control groups in Stormgate show up on the right side, so a little bit weird, but you don't want to click through them. Some people will go hidden. It's not a bad idea, honestly, in this game, but definitely for sure beyond unclickable. Automated control group indicators. This will show you that a unit's going into an automated control group. They're really, really useful if you set them up. We're not going to hit them quite here, but even people that like Juggernaut and Jason have said that it's a really cool, it's a good idea. Like, there's nothing worse than not having a barracks or something, out, or having a production building out of your hockey and that costing you a game, right? Like, I know there's elements to skill, but adding buildings to all your hockeys is one of the most annoying macro mechanics there is, right? And it's just, yeah. That's the primary reason that you can use it. There's other things you can do with it, but you can basically make your hotkeys, but I think at that point you're overcomplicating it a little bit. Most players prefer to just manually add them, or use all army, and anyway. So, but that'll just show you where they're going. Minimap position. Are you a left, which means you played a bunch of Blizzard RTS games, or are you right side? Because I think League of Legends defaults to the right, and then Command & Conquer's up here in the top right. But it's whatever personal preference, right? Left, right, no big deal. Most people leave the console scale even because it shrinks the minimap, so I haven't seen a single person that has changed their console size. If you're doing the campaign, maybe change it so you can see more. That's something I would do. I don't want to make it clear when I say if you're doing the campaign, it's like, if I play the campaign, I'm there to enjoy it, no matter what difficulty I'm on, right? Like, I don't want a bunch of stuff all over the place. So, you might want to change it there. I still wouldn't, but, maybe. The player colors, cool versus warm, was funny because it used to be really, really hard to see the difference. Now it's okay. Standard is just red versus blue, right? Super basic. Cool versus warm's totally fine. A lot of people like friend versus foe, but standard, friend versus foe is fine. Pick whichever. In terms of disable stats overlay, all that is there's a little bit of stats in the bottom left. You can probably see it a whole bunch here. They'll show you a bunch of different diagnostic data or telemetric data, right? Doesn't hurt anything to leave it on, unless it bothers you, or if you don't know what anything on it means, then for sure turn it off. And the last thing, I guess, we'll go back to gameplay here. Look, with rollback, there's default, enabled, and disabled. I prefer leaving it on enabled, and it's been controversial, and I was definitely one of the people that was like, that's not a great idea. However, the way it's rolled out in Stormgate, and the guy doing it is the same guy that made the engine for StarCraft 2. He developed the back end on Battle.net for Warcraft 3 that had all the custom games loaded in for free. His name's James Arnholt. Go look him up, man. And then be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that guy's making it. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that, right? That is also part of it. When Stormgate first came out, it was rough, right? And it wasn't communicated that well. But hey, we got these awesome guys that are, going to get everything together. But here's our skeleton. Here's kind of our first ideas. And the amount of feedback I've seen them take off their feedback form is basically the reason I'm, putting some of this stuff together. I don't care personally. I've got, life, moving on. Everything's great. But, I don't mind showing people around in terms of hotkeys and stuff. And I spent a bunch of time trying to get the game to play the way I wanted it to, and then eventually I stopped fighting it and started kind of playing the game the way Stormgate wanted it to be played. And honestly, the 0.4 patch, play it for yourself and decide. I was pretty like, oh, okay. Like, this game is really... I'm gonna say it's fun right now. Like, I really enjoy just feeling the shift from, like, units that weren't responsive and kind of problematic into, like, stuff that's genuinely fun, and I'll highlight all that stuff. So, you know, decide for yourself, right? Last thing we're gonna hit is the buddy bot. Honestly, you don't want it on. I personally, like, unless there's a really good reason, disability reason, something like that, you don't really need it on. One of the things with, and again, you can't use it in versus, but, like, that's not the, that doesn't matter. If you're playing the campaign, you can use it if you want, but it's not, it feels good to learn, it feels good to get better at the game. It's there if you need it and you're struggling, hey, turn it on, man. You can literally go look at my SC2 profile the other day and I beat the game on casual, right? So it's like, everybody starts wherever they are. If you want to use it, go ahead. It is kind of cool, it does a few things, but in general, it's better to just get used to the game yourself, right? At least that's my opinion. Might not be yours, and I might be wrong, but, it's all good. Last thing, I just want to really quickly touch over on, not this, which is the automatic control groups, which a lot of people have talked about, really cool. And just on the hotkeys menu, just a couple of, like, smallish errors that I made, and just want to kind of correct here. Be really careful when you double stack keys, because there's a few of those, but I didn't talk about the top bar basically at all. And in my opinion, the top bar is very, very important, especially for Celestials, and that's kind of where their mouth's in a little bit. Obviously, I know it's important, but I didn't rebind a bunch of it. I'm kind of, used to whatever with it. Like, I don't mind the Control Q, but I actually like Control Z is my preference for top bar slot 1. Then I go Control X, which is fine. Don't care, right? Don't care about cut. Don't care about paste, right? And then we can go, for me, I go like Control R and then Control T. That's me. Be yourself, like, figure it out, and for yourself, what's comfortable. If you ever play co-op mode in StarCraft 2, it's the exact same type of top bar, works really well, but you need to make sure it's right for you. So I really didn't talk about that when the first time it came around, so anyway, there you go. And just really quick, I guess I didn't show you the top bar. Hey, you know what? We're good. There's a bunch of other content and a bunch of other videos out there. There's a ton of people that are going to be streaming the game. If it's something for you and you want to play it, hey man, give it a chance. Might be fun. Might be something you want to come back to. The campaign is completely reworked and super badass now. Apparently everything's really cool. Like I said, I could have played it, but I didn't. I was doing a bunch of other stuff here, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. And have a go, man.